What's up, guys? Alexander Thomas here. Welcome back to Game Time 123 Sports Hour, episode number 1 for this season. We got to talk about a lot of changes have occurred in the NBL this year. We could take a look at the new divisions have already been put out. I will be putting these and this link to this below this video, and probably a link to the roster. I'm not going to actually look at the rosterings today, but we're going to talk about each team's positions going into this next year. Every team has had some struggles and has some great games in the same positions. I would like to go and take a look at each one of these teams and say what I think they need to go for real quickly. I don't want to go for much changes. I'll also talk about the changes that have been made in the NBL. The Panthers, first and second, they don't need anything. They have the number 1 pick. They traded the number 1 pick to where the Stars traded that number 1 pick to the Panthers. I don't recall exactly what the things were. I don't know if I have that thing here somewhere. No. They traded several things for this position. Let me see if I have that. I think we called it trade block if it was anything. It doesn't look like I do. The Panthers traded the number 1 pick. It's probably actually in the draft. Here's the draft order. Just going to show you these things for this year. That's all these players. This is actually 2025. So this is actually not this year. This I've already gone ahead and put the order up. This one should be given at the pointism and all these things. You'll have round 1 and round 2. And this is the order of all the players for this year, and here was I think the trade. Yeah, here was the trade. It was already finalized. The Panthers traded for the number 1 pick, gave them the 36th pick, and then also gave them a 2nd and 4th pick next year. Honestly, in my opinion, that's really low for this stance. In my opinion, they probably shouldn't. Now, there is a rule that basically says additional compensation could be applied, and that was what they said. But that was the only trade that's been happening so far. Panthers gave them this. And the Panthers still have a ton of picks. They still have 7 picks this year. So going into the fact, there's just a lot that has happened going this one. The pool is also here with all the players and overall ratings. What they actually got. It will be their overall ratings. And this year, the first changes that have been made is that their offense and defense have already been picked out. When they're drafted, they go ahead and make a kind of a contract with that player, or person that owns that team, and to say, okay, I'm going to be declared as a point guard, a defense back, or a forward. That is the basic idea. And their highest rating, by the way, is 99, even if some of these things are over the amount. I think the lowest player currently on this roster, I don't even know what it is, to be honest, it's probably a 63 right here. Judy Burke. But there's 500 players. The first that one change was made, the fact is that these 500 players are all eligible to be drafted. They can draft any one of these players, and that player is theirs. And then next year, when next 160 players will be added to this raw thing before, and that's the idea for this one. And these were the pool for this. You see, there was 500 players going into this year, and more players will be added next year for 160. And when they're drafted, their name will be put onto that team's roster. Now, if the team has 25 players, that's the maximum they can have. They're allowed up to 5 additional slots, but they have to have 25 when the season starts. Season starts February, I believe it's the 15th of February. So it's the middle of February. And that's it is a couple weeks away. Now the NBL draft that will be occurring is on the 28th and 29th, and possibly the 30th and 31st. Just depending on the effects of whether or not this happens for it. There should be 2 rounds every night. So this will happen round night number 1, although I've mixed these up apparently. Oh, that's probably oh, I know why. It's just an extra thing. Yeah, so you're going to see these are the picks that all teams have. Round 1 will occur one night. Round 2 will occur another night. But 1 and 2 occur on the same night. 3 and 4 occur on the same night. That's the whole thing that's going to happen. And the draft order is still up here. Trades can still be made. If you want to take over a team, there is going to be an email linked below. Not necessarily a link, but there's going to be an email there you can send where you want a team in, and you can choose any team. All teams are available. They were available last season, and no one took up on it. That means you can make trades. You can do this. You can cut players if you want of what you want to do, and that is the basic idea. Now, we get to look at the few changes that were made. First changes were the playoffs. In previous year, I just want to go look at week 1. I can cut this one down. Every game can occur. There's still 16 weeks. And the way it works is every team plays their normal 12-minute quarters at the selected time. Now, they won't be shown live, unfortunately. I don't have the rights to do that, unfortunately. But you'll see it. And let's say the Angels and Hawks. What will happen is they're going to have, all right, so quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4. If they're tied at the end of quarter 4, they have what's called an overtime period. Here, I'll just go and show you what's going to happen. So let's just say that that they score at the end before overtime. So you have overtime. Let's just say the score, let's just say it was even 12 points in every quarter. Somehow. I don't know how that works, but and it was a tie. They go to what's called an overtime period. And then in overtime, each team has 5 possessions, which means in theory, their maximum score they can get, if I'm correct, as you just stated, is 3 times 5. So they can get up to 15 points in overtime. If it's at the end of that, if it's tied, then the game ends in a tie. And whatever the score is, that's what's added. However, let's say it's not tied. Whoever is the leading team wins that game. If it's tied in a regular season game, that will be whoever the winner is. However, there are some other changes to this. It will not occur in playoffs. In the playoffs, that will still occur, and then it'll be sudden death. Because last year we had really long divisional games. I think it was. I don't know if it was the positions. I don't remember what it was, but it was. We had some games that went to a really long time. In a really big position. I think this is actually best of 3. I don't think this is actually what it is. Yeah, this is different. This is completely different. That playout is legit. But the way it works, hide this, is that each team will be playing in a best of 5 during that. If a game is tied at the end of one of those games, it will go to overtime. The overtime period is 5 possessions, just like it is in a regular season game. But after that 5 possessions, if you're tied, assuming they're tied, then it goes to sudden death. Whoever scores next wins the game. It doesn't matter if the team who has the ball first gets it or doesn't have it. It will not make a difference. Second rule change that was made to this next year. Make sure I'm right about this. Yeah. So the second rule change is that a lot of penalties have been eliminated from this event. I'm not going to go over the penalties in this video if I even do this at all. But offside was gotten rid of, and a lot of other penalties were eliminated from the league. A few other penalties were added, but there's like only 13 penalties versus there were 36 penalties possible in the previous year. So that is now it. I will let you know that when you go to this, if you go to the divisions, you'll see the strength of schedule. That might be a little bit higher. It might be a little bit lower. Currently, the team that has the easiest schedule, if I'm correct, I think it was the Falcons. Remember correctly. Might be the Jets. Where's the Falcons? Strength schedule is the total, basically, the total number of wins the teams had last season. That's the Kings. The teams had last season. So if they had more wins, the more points they had. I think a few of these were changed a little bit because of the schedule based, but I think the Jets actually have the easiest schedule this year. But basically, that's going to be what they do, and the scores will be put as well. Alright, I will talk about the few other changes that were made to the teams. And also, I actually added something from last year. You can see from 2000 to 2024, this will show you every team that played. I'm only going to talk about that real quickly because um, previously there were only one game. I think one starting in like 2013, and there are also multiple years seasons. Starting in 2013, not 2013, 2016, there were some changes to the amount of best series. It was best of 5 in 2021 to 2024. It was best of 3 in 16 to 20, and earlier than that, it was on best of 1. So it was only a relimits. Now there were a few changes because there were a few bases because now they're called something different. But the ABL was a league at one time. The ABL ended in 2013. So a lot of these games that you'll see that say ABL weren't actually possible. ABL teams were available up until a certain point. And there were some good teams for it. You can see every team's positions and how many games that they won at that during this position. You can also see the free agency chart, but once a player turns 18, they're gone, I believe. So I don't know if they're actually gone from here, but they will basically not be available at a certain point. All right, so let's see here. What other rule changes were made? Now, new rules changed a little bit. We'll go to last week because, well, maybe not last week. There were some changes. Every team must play 7 games at home and every game is away, at minimum. So that's the new rules for it. I think the R's actually played differently. This just shows you how many games that every team had. I don't think we're going to look at that anymore. I'm just going to delete it because it doesn't make a difference. They play 16 games. They play home, away, or whatever they do at this point. That is basically all I really have for it because yes. I will talk about real quickly about what teams every team needs to help you guys out for this one. If a team has struggled, they're probably more like let's see if I have a like last year. Well, if you look at this one here, which is available, you can see their offensive and defensive points for and points against. If a team has struggled, then maybe, like for example, the Panthers had 917 points. They aren't struggling in offense, but you have teams that are really struggling, like the Stars, who did the worst last year, and then might want to go for those players. We'll get some extra players from that. I don't the roster. I don't know if the roster's here. And you can go to the roster. I will put the roster as well. I don't know where the roster is right now. It's here somewhere. But the roster is going to be showing you all the players that are currently on that link. Is that right? I think this one. Oh, I have it up, don't I? The team roster is to show you all this. Every team is only on 25 players, just to point that out. It was a team last year that somehow managed to have Superman managed to have 26 players somehow. 20. Remember they had 25 last year. I'm just counting. Go ahead. Okay, well, these are all the rosters. Now I will be updating the roster today as well, so it will be a little bit different than what it is showing right now. If a player has an R in front of it, then it means it's going to be retired at the end of this season, next season. That's all I really have for you guys. I will talk about after the NBL draft, which is 2 weeks away, what teams need, how I think each team's going to do during the season. I'm not really going to talk about how good the teams are going into this next season. That's it. I will see you guys in the next video for week 2, for the NBL draft, which is live. Thank you guys for seeing. See you next video.